Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming your way. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I want to know how far this story has reached. No more waiting. Let's get into the video.
The twin suns of Varel 9 hung like molten daggers in the sky, casting warped shadows across the blistered ruins of Turan, a market city that had once echoed with laughter, song, and the hiss of boiling spices. Now it was dust and metal, rusted frames of forgotten stalls, winds carrying only the brittle cough of the dying. In the heart of this desolation, Lira Kael moved like a whisper. Her skin, once radiant with the vibrant green hue of the Thal'ari, was dulled by grit and exhaustion. A tattered scarf clung to her head, shielding her from the solar wrath of Durnus and Vectra, but not from the hunger that hollowed her stomach or the desperation that clawed at her throat. She carried a single task in her trembling hands: find water. One flask, half full even, anything to cool her father's burning breath as he lay fevered in the shadows of a collapsed silo. Naren Kael had once stood proud in this world, a seeker of underground flow, a whisperer of lost waters. Now he was dying, and his daughter, barely past her second cycle of maturity, scavenged a graveyard. Lira's eyes darted from shadow to shadow as she entered the remnants of what had once been the central plaza. Her boots, cracked and wrapped in strips of old insulation foam, crunched against sand fused with glass. She spotted it, a glint of hope on a makeshift altar of scavenged iron. A water flask, half full, condensation still clinging to the inside. It sat unguarded, unwatched. Her breath caught. She moved, quick, silent. The bottle was within reach when the grip seized her wrist. "Thief!" hissed a voice behind her. The hand was armored, rough, plated in mismatched, scavenged alloy. Lira turned and stared into the helmet of a water guard. Vorin. His armor bore the crest of the Baron, a spiral etched in crimson. "That's rationed property. You want water, you pay in flesh." Lira struggled, twisting, teeth bared. "Please," she rasped. "My father." Silence. He raised his blade. It wasn't ceremonial. It was meant for execution. Rusted, heavy, notched from too many punishments. You take from the Baron, you pay in kind. Maybe your arm buys the lesson. The blade glinted red with the sun's kiss. It fell and stopped. The hiss of an energy pistol echoed through the square. Vorin screamed, his sword clattering to the stone, fingers seared and smoking. Lira gasped. A man stood 10 meters away, dust swirling at his boots, cloak rising gently with the heated air. He held a sleek Terran blaster in one hand, the other open at his side. Tall, human, broad-shouldered. His beard was touched with gray, his uniform old but still bearing the faded stripes of command. "Let her go," he said, voice like gravel over steel. Vorin turned, cradling his burned hand. You'll hang for this. You struck a water guard." The human walked forward, unhurried, each step deliberate. "If you're the kind of man who threatens to cut a girl's arm off for a sip of water, then I'll consider that shot a service to your species." He knelt beside Lira, offering her his canteen. She hesitated. "Drink," he said gently, "before he comes to his senses and calls for reinforcements." Her hands shook as she drank. The water tasted of metal and dust and salvation. Vorin was shouting now, his comms flaring with static. But no backup arrived. Not yet. The man rose. "Name's Kael Renn. I've got a ship on the ridge, and no desire to see more blood today. You're coming with me." Lira looked from the man to the flask, to the empty plaza. "Why?" she asked. "Why help me?" His eyes, cold and blue like oceans she'd only heard of in stories, met hers. "Because I've seen too many people punished for being born in the wrong part of the galaxy, and because your eyes look like someone I lost." She didn't understand. Not yet. But something in his voice made her stand. Together, they turned toward the ridge, where heat rippled above the sands like glass, and where a small corvette ship waited, dust-stained, patched, alive. Behind them, Vorin cursed and spat, but did not follow. The desert had already judged him. As they crested the slope, Lira glanced at the human, Kael Renn. His name felt strange on her tongue, but familiar in her bones. In the distance, thunder cracked. Not of rain, but of engines. Something was coming, and somehow, she felt that everything that had just happened was not coincidence. It was the opening of something vast, something buried deep beneath the sand. The inside of Kael Renn's ship was colder than Lira expected, like stepping into the bones of something that still remembered space. The walls bore the scars of patchwork repairs. Metal welded over holes that spoke of past battles, and the air carried a faint scent of ozone and machine oil. It was a ship made for survival, not comfort, and yet it hummed with quiet resilience, just like the man who flew it. Kael led her through the narrow corridor without speaking, only glancing back once to make sure she was still following. When they reached the medbay, she darted past him, guiding him to the cot where her father lay bundled in torn cloth and fevered breaths. Kael didn't hesitate. He knelt beside Naren Kael, scanning him with a compact med device, the soft green light passing over the gaunt face that had once commanded crowds with his voice alone. "He's dying," Lira whispered. "I know," Kael replied, adjusting the scanner's settings. "But not today." The med unit hissed, injecting stabilizing nanogel into the elder's arm. Naren stirred, eyes fluttering open. Lira held his hand, and he turned slowly to face the stranger beside him. Recognition sparked. "Kael Renn," the old man rasped. "Still chasing ghosts?" Kael's face tightened. "You look like hell, Naren." "You look worse," Naren coughed, but it came with a smile. "You cut that guard's hand clean off. Just a few fingers. I've softened." Lira looked between them, shocked. "You know each other?" Kael nodded slowly. "A long time ago. Your father and I walked through a sandstorm on Jara 4 to find a spring no scanner could detect. He saved my life, twice. And you disappeared," Naren added. "Didn't think you'd return." "I wasn't coming back," Kael said quietly. But then rumors started, about a Thal'ari girl who found a water pocket beneath a dead riverbed, about a father with no water tech, still keeping people alive. I knew it had to be you. "Not me," Naren said, eyes shifting to his daughter. "It was her." Lira frowned. "I just felt it, like a pull beneath my feet." Naren nodded. "You're a seeker, Lira." One of the last. The word hung heavy in the recycled air. Seekers. Mythical in modern Varel 9. Said to be able to sense the flow, hidden aquifers running like veins beneath the surface of dead worlds. The ancient Thal'ari had once flourished because of them, until the barons rose, enslaved the waters, and hunted the seekers down. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lira asked, voice cracking. "To protect you. If Sarn's men knew what you are." He trailed off, coughing violently. Kael turned away, fingers tightening into fists. "He's right. The Baron is hunting for the flow, for the Veu." "The Veu?" Lira asked. Kael walked to a side console and projected a hologram, faint, flickering. A lattice of interconnected nodes lit up in blue beneath a map of Varel 9. "The Veu is real," he said. "An ancient subterranean network, organic, alive, some say. A web of water that stretches beneath deserts, connecting worlds through underground rivers. The old civilizations used it to terraform planets." "It's a myth," Lira whispered. "No," Naren said, struggling upright. "I found it once. A fragment. But I couldn't reach it alone. That's why I sent the signal." "You sent the signal?" Kael blinked. "You called me." Naren's smile was faint. "You were always the stubborn one. I knew you'd come." Before more could be said, the ship trembled. A deep rumble, like the growl of something vast beneath the sand. The AI's voice crackled through the overhead speaker. "Warning. Explosive impact detected. Proximity breach. External threat approaching." Kael shot up. "Damn it, they tracked us." On the view screen, a line of armored skiffs approached, kicking dust across the canyon. At their lead, the crimson crest of Baron Sarn. Lira's blood ran cold. "They're here. We can't fight them," Kael muttered. "Not like this." "Then run," Naren rasped. "Take her to the mountain. The old base at Rick's. It's near the source. If the Veu still lives, it will respond to her." Kael hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll hold them. I still know the codes. And they'll want answers." "He's too weak," Lira protested. "He'll die." Naren's eyes locked with hers. If you reach the flow, if you awaken it, we all live. Kael grabbed her arm. We need to go. Now. Outside, the air was thick with heat and sand, the enemy drawing close. Lira cast one last look at her father. He smiled at her with pride and something else, relief. As the ship lifted off, chased by fire and ash, Lira felt something stirred deep beneath her ribs. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. The desert was calling her name. The Montaña de Rix rose like a jagged claw from the sand, its obsidian spires slicing into the orange twilight sky. As Kael's ship descended toward a narrow canyon entrance at its base, the nav systems glitched repeatedly. Interference not from enemy tech, but from something older, something alive beneath the surface. The ship groaned as it settled on a rocky shelf, its thrusters kicking up a vortex of sand. Lira stepped onto the stone, her boots scuffing against surfaces older than any known chart. The mountain loomed above, and the silence was absolute, as if the world itself held its breath. Sensors can't map it, Kael muttered, tapping his gauntlet. Something's warping the readings. Magnetic anomalies, maybe biological. It's the VEU, Lira whispered. Her pulse quickened. She didn't know how she knew, but every cell in her body felt drawn here, pulled like a needle to true north. They moved deeper into the mountain, through an ancient fissure marked by strange patterns carved into the walls, spirals, fractals, and flowing lines that pulsed faintly when Lira touched them. The light responded to her fingers. Kael saw it. That's Thal'ari script, he said, awe creeping into his voice. No, not script. Sensory glyphs. This was a living interface. Lira nodded. I can feel it humming, like it's waiting for something. They followed the pulsing lines until they emerged into a vast crystalline chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. At its center stood a towering spire of translucent mineral, rising from a pool of stagnant water so still it reflected the stars above. A perfect mirror, untouched by time. This is it, Kael breathed. We found the core. The glyphs surged with brightness as Lira stepped forward, and suddenly the ground beneath them shuddered with a low, resonant pulse, like a heartbeat. The water began to glow. The crystal spire awakened. Data streamed down its sides in ribbons of light, but the moment fractured as the mountain groaned again, this time in protest. A violent tremor split the floor with a deafening crack. Move! Kael yelled, grabbing Lira's arm. Too late. The platform beneath him buckled, and he vanished into the darkness below with a roar of crumbling stone. Kael! She screamed, falling to her knees. Dust choked the air. For a moment, all she could hear was the echo of collapse. Then, his voice, distant and strained. I'm alive, just trapped. She crawled to the edge, peering down into a chasm lit only by the dying glow of the crystal above. He was pinned beneath debris, his leg crushed, blood pooling beneath him. Don't move, she said, breath shaking. I'll find a way. No time, he coughed. Get back to the ship. Bring help. But she didn't move. She closed her eyes. Beneath the surface of her fear, something stirred. A memory not hers, ancient and cold. A whisper of water moving through bedrock, a stream beneath a world scorched dry. She knelt beside the glowing pool, placed her hands into the water. The sensation hit like lightning. Pain and light and memory surged through her, visions of the VEU flowing across barren planets, filling caverns with liquid light, bringing life where only stone had lived. Her veins burned, her fingertips tingled, and beneath her feet, the mountain answered. A deep, rolling tremor began again, but this time it moved upward, controlled, gentle. The stone beneath Kael shifted as if guided by unseen currents. The debris lifted slowly, pulled by threads of moisture that coalesced into shimmering strands of pressure. Water, living water. It flowed upward, shaped by her will. Kael's body rose with it, and Lira pulled him clear of the chasm with trembling arms. His eyes met hers, wide with awe. You did that. She collapsed beside him, panting, tears streaking down her dusty face. I felt the water. Not just here. Everywhere. It's all connected. The VEU, he murmured. It lives through you. It's not just in the ground, she said. It's in me, in my blood. The realization hit her like a wave. She hadn't just inherited the gift of the Seekers. She was the key to awakening the network. The chamber pulsed with new light. The glyphs along the walls aligned, forming a pattern that rose upward into the spire. A map, worlds, coordinates, flow lines between planets, a star chart etched in water and will. Kael sat up slowly, wincing. It's a network, hidden across systems, and you just lit the beacon. We need to tell the Coalition, Lira said, still breathless. We need to protect it before Sarn finds it. Then we'd better move fast. Above them, the mountain rumbled again, but this time it wasn't anger. It was awakening. The sky above Varel 9 roared with the thunder of descending ships. Sleek vessels marked with the insignia of the Coalition pierced the clouds like spears of judgment, flanked by long, lean cruisers bristling with weapons. From the ground, it looked like salvation, but Lira knew better. Salvation never came without a price. The transmission she and Kael had sent from the core of the Montana Derricks had reached them. The map of the Veo, the proof of its existence, the living water threading beneath dead worlds. And just as predicted, the Baron had responded first. Baron Sarn's stronghold rose like a rusted monolith from the desert plains, a fortress built of scavenged metal and greed, surrounded by walls that shimmered with shield generators and the bones of ancient machines. They landed just outside its perimeter, on neutral sands, the air choked with heat and tension. Lira stepped forward, draped in a dark travel cloak, Kael limping at her side with a reinforced brace on his leg. Behind them stood Coalition guards, and beside them, Naren Kael, alive, gaunt, but upright, having evaded capture with help from rebels hiding in the sand. Before them stood Baron Sarn himself, his corpulent body wrapped in layers of ornate armor, a breathing apparatus hissing at his throat. His eyes were cold iron, his voice smoother than oil. So the child of a water thief brings a war fleet to my gates. I bring a choice, Lira said. The Veu is real, and I can awaken it. The Baron stepped down from his platform, the sands crunching beneath his gilded boots. I should have gutted your father cycles ago, he muttered. And your blood should have dried with the last of the Seekers. But it didn't, Kael said, stepping forward. And here we are. Sarn's lip curled. So what do you want, little girl? Tribute, glory, a throne of your own? Lira didn't flinch. Access. Open flow from the Veu to the people of Varel 9. Shared water, regulated by a neutral Coalition commission. End the drought. End the hoarding. Sarn scoffed. You have no leverage. I do, she said, raising her hand. A ripple of moisture pulsed through the air. The sands around her feet darkened, moisture rising through the crust of the planet like breath through a lung. All across the horizon, faint tremors hummed. Beneath them, the Veu stirred. I am the key, she said. And if I die, the Veu goes silent. Again. Sarn's mechanical breathing quickened. And if I kill all of you, I'll find another way to open it. You've had centuries, Naren said, his voice like broken glass. You found nothing, because the Veu only answers to those who feel it. And you've forgotten how to feel. The Coalition's lead diplomat stepped forward now, her robes fluttering in the heat. Baron Sarn, the Federation is prepared to recognize your control over your territories, provided you agree to Lira Kael's terms. Share the water, maintain peace, and open your borders to Veu access. Sarn looked at them all, calculating. His empire, built on control of artificial reservoirs and fear, now stood on the edge of irrelevance. If Lira's power proved true, he would lose everything. But if he denied her, he would be branded a tyrant by the Coalition, and the warships in orbit would not sit idle. And who will lead this activation mission? He asked slowly. Who guarantees I am not cheated? I will, Lira said, with Kael at my side. You put your trust in a human? Sarn sneered. I do, she replied, because he saved me when you would have cut me down. He saw value where you saw only weakness. That's the kind of strength this world needs now. The Baron was silent for a long moment. Then, finally, he nodded. A slow, bitter motion. So be it, but be warned, girl. If you fail to deliver, this world will drown in blood, not water. Then let's not fail, Kael said. The ground beneath them pulsed again. Stronger this time. The Vey was listening. They had awakened something ancient, something sacred, but it was fragile. The flow was unstable, unpredictable after centuries of slumber. If they failed to stabilize the network soon, the release of pressure could rupture the planet's crust. Or worse. We have hours, Naren warned. Maybe less. The Veus veins are opening, but without the core chamber stabilized, it could collapse into a planetary fracture. Then let's go, Lira said, already turning toward the skiff. We've bargained with the monster. Now it's time to outrun the storm. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of moisture across the dunes. Not rain, not yet, but close. Closer than it had been in generations.